Hello, guys. First of all, I want to say great job to everybody that did the workouts this week. We had virtual runners do it. We had Tuesday evening on the track, Wednesday morning on the track, and a lot of great running out there. Most of you guys nailed that workout. It was, supposed to be threshold pace, so comfortably uncomfortable. We weren't overreaching for it. Nobody was starfishing on the ground, and a lot of people said it was easy, which was the entire point of it. I also want to preface it that I have all three of the kids in the office with me today. So the older ones, especially Chris, is in charge of Kate in the back room. They're shooting basketballs. They're doing a marble run, the big marble runs, because the little ones had to be taken away with Kate. But we'll see if they can hang out back there for a couple minutes while we get through this. I originally had a different topic, which we will do next week, but I've had a lot of questions on running shoes these last 2 weeks. So those of you that have taken camp before, I know you've heard this before. There's not a lot of new information, but we do also have a lot of new runners in camp. And so I want to touch on just some like anatomy things about running shoes, what to look for in a running shoe, the different types of running shoes, etc. Because it really is so important with running. I mean, even this morning, perfect example, I was so irritated with myself that I showed up Wednesday morning. I got there like at 5 o'clock to get everything set up, and then I was hoping to get a couple miles in myself before coaching. And then when I was done, I could get a couple miles in, and I wore the wrong shoes. I actually wore like these shoes, which are just like my lifestyle shoes that I wear in the office. Really great for walking, but I am like terrified of hurting my feet. I had some plantar heel pain going on a couple weeks ago, so I was not about to do any type of running in like these lifestyle shoes that aren't my running shoes. So I know some of you we talked to do last night and last week about potentially getting new running shoes that they're just either beat up or not running shoes. They're more you went to Ross and found them, which is what these are. They're great for walking around, but maybe not so great for running. So let's dive into it. And to start with, I just want to say the best running shoes are the ones you will wear. There is so much information out there on the internet with AI, on podcasts. You look at your favorite pro runners, if that's something that you watch. And there's this talk of what's the upper made out of, what type of mesh, what kind of foam, if it's carbon plated, like the heel cup in the back. None of that matters if it's not comfortable and you're not going to wear it. So at the end of the day, the heel to toe drop, which we'll talk about, is one thing I want you to look at. But other than that, put it on, run in it. Is it comfortable? We're really lucky that here locally at Running Zone, you can go get a pair of shoes, and for 21 days, you have the opportunity to run outside with those shoes, and you can exchange it, no questions asked, within that 21-day window. So running shoes, try them on. The best running shoes are the ones that you will actually wear, that aren't just going to sit there. So general shoe guidelines, we touched on, will you wear them? Are they comfortable? We're looking for no drastic change in heel to toe drop. We'll go over what that is in just a second. Most of these shoes, you're going to look at 300 to 500 miles max in them. And I know that's a wide range, and we're going to go over some of the factors that affect that. But you do want to start to keep track of how many miles are on your shoes. I wear New Balance 1080s. So on the back of my 1080s, back here, I'll typically put the date that I bought them. So I'll have a couple shoes rotating at the same time. You can also look at the wear pattern on the back, but that gives you a rough estimation of how many miles are on the shoe. Some of the apps like Strava, you can also log what shoe you're wearing for different workouts and different runs. And so it can easily track it for you. So that's another option. Always try running shoes on with socks. And the socks that you're going to be running in, there's all kinds of different socks out there, whether you have more of like a dress sock or a thicker sock that day, whatever socks you're going to be running in, use that pair of socks when you're trying on your pair of shoes so you know what it's going to feel like when you go out to run. So what impacts how long shoes last? Weather is a big one. So if it's really rainy and your shoes get wet all the time, they're not going to last quite as long. If you leave them out in the direct sunlight a lot, that's not going to be great for them. Your sweat rate, if you're a heavy sweater like I am, and so they're constantly getting wet and soaked with salt and sweat, that's going to have them not last quite as long also. The material is just going to degrade a little faster. Is it a multi-purpose shoe? I want to say I don't advertise. I don't encourage you to use a multi-purpose shoe. I would have just a running shoe, and that's all you do, that you're not using it for yard work and during the day. And that's why I have different shoes that I wear in here. I don't like wearing my running shoes for everything. They are strictly to run. But if you're using your running shoe for multi-purpose activities throughout the day, for strength or yard work or out walking, theme parks or whatnot, they're just not going to last as long because those all count as miles. You're walking in those shoes. And so that's going to accumulate also. So I would encourage you that if it's possible to have a pair of just strict running shoes that you only run in. Storage, where you're storing them. Are you storing them in your hot car? Are you storing them in direct sunlight, etc.? I mean, I keep mine in the garage. I'm not about to take my stinky running shoes inside, but at least they're covered and it's not in direct sunlight. Running surface, asphalt, pavement, pretty much what we have around here is going to degrade that material a little faster than if we were on something like trails or a softer surface a bit more often. Your running style, you guys have all seen different running styles of people. So you're someone that scuffs your shoe, it's going to wear down a bit more because you're just that friction of rubbing it on the ground with every step. Depending on where you're landing and how hard you're landing on each side is going to dictate how long that shoe's gonna last. Wow, I cannot talk today. I apologize. And the shoe quality, there's all kind of different quality of running shoes. Even these lifestyle shoes that I'm wearing here, I just got them at Ross for like 25 bucks. They feel great. They're great for walking around. But if you go to Ross and pick up a pair of like New Balance shoes that look like a good pair of running shoes, they're probably going to be a bit lower quality than if you went to like a Running Zone or a run specialty store. That's not always the case. You can find some really great deals at those discount stores. Just make sure you're looking at what type of New Balance shoe it is. New Balance, Nike, Brooks, Asics, Adidas, they make a very wide range of shoes. And so depending on what line you're in, depending on the model of shoe, there's just going to be different shoe quality. So make sure you're looking at that. You're not like, oh, New Balance, that's a running shoe. This will be a great one. It might be a lower quality shoe that's more of a lifestyle shoe. So just take a look. Shoe anatomy. So the upper is the material fabric that's at the top of your foot. So what you're looking at is all of this up here is the upper. It's that mesh on the top. So it holds your foot in place. It provides breathability, comfort, and it just locks down, your foot in the shoe. If we didn't have this up here, our foot wouldn't stay in the shoe quite as well. The mesh is getting lighter and lighter in these running shoes. So the lighter it is, the more breathable it is. If there's a lot of overlays over here, it may have some more stability. The reason I actually picked this lifestyle shoe is it fits more like a sock, like there's not a separate tongue. So some shoes are like that. It might be a very consistent upper there without the tongue. Some have that separate tongue here. So this would be more of that knit upper. This is the sock-like feel, very flexible fit that I really like. If you have any type of like bunions forming, or just have a wide foot, you're going to want a wider toe box here. I think we ended up talking about the toe box, but you're going to want a wider toe box here without as much of this structured overlay. So anything that's here that's not the mesh is not going to be as flexible as that mesh on the top. So just keep that in mind if you're someone that, like I said, has a wider foot, starting to develop bunions, like unfortunately I am. I think it's genetic. Or just need more room in here, have a tendency to get blisters in different spots. Just pay attention to that mesh and where these structured overlays are. So then we have the midsole. So this is the foam between your foot and the ground. So this is everything in here. It absorbs the impact. So we have some shoes that are like more that max cushion are going to have more of that midsole here. Provides cushioning, energy return, which is getting better and better. The foam that these shoes are being made out of, not this one specifically, but running shoes, are getting better and better at that energy return. Even with the fast shoes with the carbon plates, a lot of people think it's the carbon plates that are helping us run faster, but it's a combination of the carbon plate and what this midsole is made out of, what that foam is made out of for that energy return. But this is the most important part for both comfort and performance. So the softer foams are going to provide more comfort. So they're going to feel more like that pillow. So think more of like a Hoka. But they're going to be less stable. You're a little higher off the ground. Your foot's just not going to be able to firmly plant. Think of running through sand versus running through concrete. Firmer foams are going to be more stable. You're going to have better ground feel. So there's just a bit of differences. All of the shoes now are getting quite a bit of this midsole. We'll talk about the stacked height. They're getting higher and higher. So none of them are like a Nike with like the zeros that they used to have, or the Freeze. The Freeze they used to have that had, really nothing under it, the old school flats. Nothing's really like that anymore. They're all going to have a decent amount of foam. In more the racing shoes, they'll have what I call like these super foams. Every company, every brand has a different name for these super foams, but they're lighter, bouncer, have more energy return, and that's all in this midsole here. So the outsole is the bottom of the shoe that comes into contact with the ground. So it's literally just the bottom of your shoe. So pretty self-explanatory. That's because traction, durability on the bottom. It's going to be harder than the rest of the shoe. This is going to influence how smooth the shoe feels when you're doing toe off. The more rubber on the bottom, the longer they should last. Again, it's going to depend on how you run, the surface you're running on, the weather, etc. It will be a little heavier, which especially for a training shoe, I don't think we care. But it's very strategic in where they put this rubber to help save weight and put it where most runners tend to hit the ground. This is a really good spot to look if you're looking at wear patterns and how you run. Are you wearing more on the inside or the outside? Is your heel wearing down, or does it look like your heel didn't even touch the ground and you're wearing down here? So you can get some insight into how you run by looking at the bottom of your shoe and by looking at both of them, because it might be your right one and your left one don't hit quite symmetrically, and that could be pretty telling also. So then we have the heel counter. This is the firm structure around the back of your heel. So I like to call it more like a heel cup, but it's this part on the back that cinches down your heel. So this helps stabilize the rear foot or the back of your foot. If we didn't have this, our heel would just come up and down. It also improves alignment during foot strike. So a lot of times when we foot strike, we're striking more either the heel to a midfoot here, and so this helps provide that stability. So the stiffer, you're going to have more support here. The softer, you're going to have more comfort. It's really going to be personal preference with that, whether, you know, what your heel feels like back here. If you have a history of like Achilles tendonitis or have what's called a Haglund's deformity, or just a little like pump bump, that little bony bump on the back, you're probably going to want something a little softer here so it's not rubbing on there and irritating it. But that's going to be totally personal preference here. This is not the same as motion control. It just contributes to that stability. And if you notice that your heel comes in and out of your shoe a lot, there's different ways we can lace it also to help with that. The stack height. So this is what's getting bigger and bigger. This is the total height from the shoe, from the ground up to your foot. So that's going to be kind of that midsole. How high is that midsole here? These are getting higher and higher. If you look back at what an old school flat used to look like, hi. Okay, go in the blue bag and get a snack. They used to be very flat. We're getting higher and higher stack heights here. So the higher the stack height, the more cushioning. In theory, the more energy return. The lower the stack height, the more ground feel and control. So max cushion shoes are going to get up to the front. Racing shoes often have a higher stack height, but they have that lighter foam. So heel drop. This is what I really need you guys to pay attention to. This is the difference in height between the heel and the front of your foot. Why this matters is it influences running mechanics and especially calf load. So if I'm in a zero drop shoe, my heel would be like I'm barefoot. My heel and my toe are sitting at the same level. If I have a 12, I'm exaggerating it, but you're going to be up here. Look at what your shoe is that you've been running in. And if you're going to get a different shoe, we don't want to go drastically from a 12 to a 0. Your Achilles and your calf are going to get really stretched out. And so the potential for Achilles tendonitis, calf issues, plantar heel pain are all going to exponentially go up because of that change in heel drop. So just something to pay attention to. If there's a shoe you want to get into that has a lower heel drop and you've been in a higher heel drop, I would gradually get there. Running Zone now has this heel drop right on the sticker of the display of the shoes. So that's really helpful when you're going to look at shoes, but just something to be really mindful of when you're buying new shoes. If you want to switch up shoes, if you want to race a different pair of shoes, make sure you're looking at that heel drop. And so this is just that picture of that from that heel to the toe. You okay? Okay, now we have the plank or shank. This is an optional feature, but this would be what like the carbon plate would be that runs under here in the foam. So it adds stiffness and also improves energy return and promotes that faster turn off. It's most common in racing shoes, but there are some training shoes that have it now. Okay, I got Kate. It's not ideal for every runner or for every run. The boys got hungry and are eating lunch already, and Kate's gonna hang with us again. Hi, Kate. You wanna help me talk about shoes? Okay. It is going to change your biomechanics. It's interesting because we're seeing more stress fractures and injuries closer to like distally from your hips. So further from your hips, closer to like your lower leg and your foot now because of all the super shoes that are out, but we're seeing less higher up. So it's interesting. I don't think at this point, we haven't seen an overall higher rate of injury due to super shoes. It's just shifted where we're getting those injuries. They can feel very fast and they can be less forgiving. So I could talk about racing shoes like probably all day and some of the pros and cons. If you are someone that wants to run in a pair of racing shoes, you want these carbon plated shoes, these super shoes, and you want to have that conversation, come over to me sometime at camp and I'm more than happy to talk about it. I don't think it's relevant for everybody and I probably don't need 20 minutes on it. But I could go deep dive into it, come over and talk to me if you are interested in it. So I just want to go quickly over some different types of running shoes. We have your all-around running shoes. These are engineered to be durable, comfortable, versatile. If you kind of feel right at home in them. For me, that's my New Balance 1080. I do every run except for my fast runs, like my workouts in my 1080s. I do my long runs, I do my easy runs. I just love them. This is my daily trainer. There are some like super trainers out there that use some of that super foam. But this is just your daily trainer. So whatever shoe you're probably running in right now that you do most of your runs in is going to be that all-around running shoe. We have stability shoes that are specifically designed to help runners who overpronate, which we didn't touch on, but you're going to be that rolling in when you're running. So it's natural for our arches to slightly collapse when we land just to absorb the impact. That's super normal, but there is a point where we get some of that overpronation. So these stability shoes help with that. Typically have a firmer midsole and like a medial post up near the arches to help support that arch to help decrease how much you're collapsing in. And they, like most shoes, they vary in the amount of support that you can get. Like I mentioned before, those stability shoes also tend to just be a little bit softer. So just be mindful of that if that's something you want or you like. And keep in mind, shoes can be in multiple categories. So I like my all-around running shoe could be a stability shoe. Here's that graphic with that supination, neutral, and overpronation. So that pronation is more that collapsing in. Supination is more on the outside of your foot, and neutral is right there in the middle. So fast running shoe, I touched on these a little bit. These are going to be your up trainers. A lot of times these aren't quite your super shoes, but they're similar to super shoes. They complement your all-around running shoe. Not something you're going to do all of your runs in, but really good for speed work, track work, maybe some hill work, usually hard surfaces. You're learning all about running shoes. Do you like it? Do you love it? You love it? You tell everybody you love shoes. Okay, and then your max cushion shoes provide really amazing protection and balance against the impact of ground contact. One thing with these though is that they do have a lot of cushion, but that also means you need to get out of it. So if you think of like you're running through sand, you push it into it, but you also need to get out of it. So just something to keep in mind if you tend to have a lot of calf and Achilles issues, tightness, injuries, etc. We might want to we might want to think through if we want to use a max cushion shoe because it is going to put more stress on that. You're just going to have to work a little harder to get out of it. But a lot of people really like them. If you feel like you need that soft cushion, then these would be a really great shoe for you and really great for especially easy and recovery runs. You could have these for just when you're feeling, a bit more fatigued after a workout. You just feel like your body needs a little bit more cushion. This would be a great shoe for that. So racing shoes, I'm not going to speak with these again. I already kind of touched on them. Don't do all of your runs in racing shoes though. If you're someone that's like, oh, I'm going to try the new, I don't remember what New Balance has now, the Fuel Cell, I believe. The New Balance Fuel Cell, and I'm going to run them all the time because I feel fast and awesome. Please don't do that. These are like, they won't last for as long. Usually it's anywhere from, 100 miles at most on these shoes. They're expensive. And also, like I said, they change your biomechanics. So it's not something you want to do every single run in. So come talk to me. And then trail shoes, they're just built a little different to withstand the elements. Just wanted to throw them in here because they are a category of shoes, but not something we're going to touch on because we don't run the trails. Well, we don't run the trails in camp. There's also walking shoes, track spikes, cross-country shoes. Just want to touch on that. But again, I don't think that's relevant to most of our population. So shoe tech, this is what I touched on. We have that carbon plate. The stack height can be up to 25 millimeters, which is pretty high, and races 800 meters longer, which is more than a half mile, which is pretty much everything we are going to be doing on the roads. It does increase that energy return. It does aid in recovery because we're getting that energy return. We're not having to work quite as hard. The big thing I want to touch on here is, especially when Nike came out with their 4% version of this, they claimed it was a 4% increase, 4% increase in performance. And that was in some individuals, but I also want to highlight that there are a lot of other ways we can improve performance, especially if you're a newer runner, if you're a younger runner. And by younger, I mean like in terms of running years. I don't care what your actual biological age is. Like my running age is very old. I've been running, and there's a lot of miles on these legs already. I hope I'm taking care of my body. It's going to be okay in several years. But if you're just newer to running, there is especially so many more things we can do outside of shoes. But even if you've been in running a while, there are so many things we can do to improve our performance at or higher than 4% than just buying a pair of shoes. So this includes, doing our strength training, being consistent, our nutrition, our sleep, all those things. So let's pay attention to those before we go dropping $250 on a pair of shoes that we can only run for 100 miles. These are some of the newest shoes that came out. I've touched on the New Balance 1080. This is all information straight from Runner's World. Just talking about the stack height, some of the pros and cons of them, how much they weigh, kind of some of the differences that they came out with versus version 11. I did the 1080 because this is my favorite shoe to run in. So biased, it's a pretty popular shoe also. So that's that New Balance 1080. These are just some of the more popular shoes I'm going to touch on. The Brooks Glycerin Max just came out with a new one. This is their highest cushion shoe by Brooks. It's 45 millimeters thick. So this is a pretty big stack height. It has dual cell technology and it's nitrogen infused midsole foam to reduce weight, but also increase bounce. You're looking at a 6 millimeter drop on this one. So kind of in that middle range drop, but a pretty good looking shoe. This would be, I think, probably more of a recovery shoe. You know, you get more of that cushion, more of that max. But a lot of people like it for an everyday shoe. Brooks is coming out with a lot of cool stuff right now. Then Asics is another good one that's really popular. The Nimbus are already on version 28. So if that tells you anything about how popular and how long these shoes have been around. But this upgrade includes a lighter weight, which they're all going to, but also that higher stack height. So here we are getting almost a 44 millimeters height at the heel. The Gel Nimbus weighs in at 1 ounce less than the previous iteration. And then I don't think I put the prices on the other one, but these are running about $170. So like everything, they're $200, $170. So prices of running shoes are just going up, just like everything. I'll hang on if anybody has a few questions. I'm happy to answer those. But this Sunday, we will be at Oars and Paddles for our long run at 6 a.m. I'll see you there. And at 7:30, we have our injury prevention workshop right there under the pavilions. Bring your towels. We'll provide drinks, and then we'll get after it with answering your questions and going over some common running related injuries. So I'll hang on a couple minutes if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, have a great day, guys.